event as far as the Institute is concerned. The theme, Shaping India's Triumph to a $5 trillion economy and beyond, is indeed a relevant one when the nation is at the cusp of transformative changes or a transformative era. What better way to deliberate on the nation's growth trajectory than amongst a congregation of academia, industry leaders, and policy makers? Such dialogues, I believe, foster a collective understanding of aspirations, perspectives, opportunities, and challenges. The dynamism that characterizes global geostrategic converse today makes it all the more essential for us to converge on ideas and views towards shaping and steering the growth of our great nation. Today I shall put forth my thoughts on the subject of Indian Army and its contribution in securing India's economic growth or India's growth story. The prosperity and ascent of any country in the Committee of Nations is intricately linked to its national security paradigm. In simple terms, national security is the ability of a nation to protect and preserve its independence, integrity, and sovereignty against external and internal threats, and the promotion of its political, economic, and social growth. Its conceptualization is beyond the realm of any single discipline, for it covers the very foundation of a nation state on the one hand, and the survival, welfare, and prosperity of its citizens on the other. The constituent dimensions of national security include economic security, energy security, food security, health security, environment security, amongst others. The overall rise of a nation can be said to occur when there is a significant and continuous increase in its comprehensive national power. And the CNP of a nation is a function of many factors, such as its strategic culture, economic strength, military power, foreign policy clout, diplomatic influence, internal cohesion, capability of its human capital, advancement in science and technology, knowledge and information base, advantages of geography and natural resources, attractiveness of its soft power, and the firmness of its national will. Economic power is no doubt the fountainhead that drives the progression of these factors. Yet, it is the military strength that lends a nation the ability to effect the outcomes necessary to process and further its multifarious interests. Historically, you would have seen that the relative lack of heft of Japan and Germany post the World War II demonstrates that economic power alone is insufficient to rise in the concert of nation states. Reflections of this can also be found in the words of one of the founding fathers of the United States, Alexander Hamilton, who said, and I quote, "Security is not possible without power, for a state despicable by its weakness forfeits even its freedom to be neutral," unquote. That said, security and economic progress share a symbiotic relationship. A secure environment provides the stability necessary for foreign and domestic investments that foster economic growth. Economic prosperity, in turn, enables allocation of resources, reinforcing a nation's security capabilities. As a nation, we have envisioned and taken up the resolve to emerge as a developed nation when we celebrate our centenary milestone. The Indian Armed Forces, specifically the Indian Army, remain fully aligned to the national vision and objectives. The foremost implication for us, therefore, is to ensure that the nation's security is not impacted in any way so that the nation its progress continues unabated. To ensure a secure and stable India that can guarantee safety and prosperity of its people, India's national security objectives could be defined as protecting India's national sovereignty, securing its territorial integrity, promoting India's rise to its rightful place in international affairs, ensuring a peaceful internal environment, and creating a climate for its citizens that is just, equitable, prosperous, and shields them from risks of life and livelihood. In order to fulfill this pivotal role as guardians of the nation's path to progress, there are imperatives that the Indian Army is alive to and remains committed to. So I shall dwell on some of these imperatives. First is for the armed forces to comprehend and remain cognizant of the contours of the current and evolving geopolitical landscape, which is characterized by change, unfolding at an unprecedented scale and speed. The churn in this landscape has set into motion a chain of events as well as some new trend lines. Economic interests, concerns, and aspirations continue to hold primacy in the strategic calculation of states. These are, in fact, driving geopolitical shifts, the manifestations of which are visible and has set into motion a number of other issues such as power plays in the spectrum of cooperation, competition, containment, and confrontation. We see around us the Cold War peace dividend is dwindling. The globalized world that we once applauded seems to be fracturing in myriad ways and can be said to be moving towards decoupling, de-risking, and perhaps deglobalization. The international system faces a key inflection point where various actors are trying to reshape global order. The pandemic, in fact, demonstrated the real face of international relations marked by sharpened suspicions. Strategic linkages amongst nations are being redrawn and interest-based alliances are taking shape. Amidst all this flux, the centrality of national interest and the growing salience of national security in the international system is increasingly visible. Today, nations are willing to resort to the use of hard power to secure their interests. We are witnessing this return to conflict for achieving political and military objectives in the ongoing conflicts. And there are a number of examples that you can see of this in the world or in the global order. Concurrently, the character of war or the character of warfare has also undergone a profound change. Disruptive technologies are blunting conventional combat ratios in terms of how many tanks you have, how many guns you have, and the likes. Multi-domain operations to include cyber, space, electromagnetic spectrum, and information are today inescapable realities. The growing centrality of cyber domain in critical national infrastructure and systems has resulted in it emerging as a new battleground of digital confrontation. And I think in one of the sessions, I believe this subject was also discussed. The conventional instruments of war have also undergone notable technological progression and advancements. Cumulatively, the battle space today has become more complex, contested, and lethal. Technology has become the new strategic arena of competition. It is being leveraged for weaponization of multitude of domains, ranging from information to supply chains. Technology, economy, and security, in fact, form the strategic triad in the contemporary context. Emerging and disruptive technologies are no longer superpower centric or available only to a select few. These are available to many nations and even non-state actors. With non-state actors not being restricted by normative behavior, the threshold of initiating conflict is low, and that remains a cause of worry. Gray zone aggression or gray zone warfare is becoming an increasingly preferred strategy of conflict prosecution. This is because it aims to achieve strategic objectives through indirect, ambiguous, and deniable means while keeping the contestation below the threshold of traditional military conflict. Apart from the military domain, the signatures of gray zone aggression can also be seen in disinformation campaigns, cyber attacks, proxy wars, political coercion, economic pressure, weaponization of a number of domains such as technology, financial mechanisms, food, migrants, and even critical medicines or vaccines, just to name a few. The occurrence of recent conflicts has led us to question the relevance of deterrence. So, in the contemporary context, is the traditional paradigm of deterrence failing is something which is being debated. The outcome of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict and the Israel-Hamas conflict will itself redefine relations, linkages, and hierarchy amongst nations, giving a new shade to world politics in the coming decades. In the Indo-Pacific around us, there is an increasing contestation in traditional and non-traditional domains. The key markers include assertion of sharp and aggressive power with a shift in the center of gravity of economic heft. Concurrently, the confluence of interests, capacities, and capabilities are bringing countries together. South Asia is marked by unresolved border disputes, both maritime and territorial, illegal cross-border migration, transnational crimes, terrorism, and non-traditional threats such as illegal and unregulated fishing, piracy, and increasing religious fundamentalism. These manifestations, coupled with regional vulnerabilities to climate change-induced disasters, have kept the region in a flux. All these developments are profoundly impacting the security domain and transforming the way nations interact, compete, and pursue their interests. I shall briefly reflect upon the aspect of protecting our national interest in these expanding strategic horizons. In order to define the expanding strategic horizon, let me spell out a few pointers of our nation's rise. Our economic growth is on a firm footing. Unlike many nations, we were able to brave the economic downturns of the pandemic and Russia-Ukraine war based on agile, resilient, and consumption-driven economy. An aspirational demographic dividend, cost advantage accruing from the vast human capital, policy reforms, skilling initiatives, infrastructure investment, digital potential, frontline entrepreneurship, the promise of being a reliable supply chain stakeholder, and our commitment to sustainable development have made us today the fifth largest economy in the world and the fastest growing major economy. And I'm sure majority of the issues related to our economic growth would have been deliberated over various sessions today and yesterday. Our foreign policy and diplomatic pursuits are playing a vital role in securing India's interests. Our stance on the Russia-Ukraine conflict is a fine example where we stood steadfast and clear towards addressing legitimate concerns based on national interest. The country has taken lead in championing initiatives for finding solutions to global problems, in the form of ventures such as International Solar Alliance, Global Biofuel Alliance, Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure, and Vaccine Maitri. Consequently, today, India has a voice on the world stage that is distinct, rooted in Indian ethos, and effective in articulating the concerns of the global south. The successful conduct of the G20 meet demonstrated our ability to bridge divides and achieve consensus on some very knotty issues. On the technological front, we were at the receiving end of technology denial regimes for many years. Despite that, propelled by our beliefs, ideas, innovation, and enabling policies, we are witness to a new revolution, certain milestones of which include technology-led startup innovation ecosystem, a robust digital public infrastructure, setting up a center of excellence to capture emerging technologies, semiconductor mission, advancement in space technology missile program, weapon platforms, and increased focus on research and development. India's rise in a non-threatening manner and as a responsible power stands acknowledged by the world community. India's growth in stature brings with it recognition, additional responsibilities, opportunities, as well as challenges. As the nation's influence expands, some will question our rise, some will contest it, while some will attempt to compete. As a nation, we need to ensure that our national interests remain paramount, and that mandates us to be a strong nation, to be able to defend our interests in the expanding strategic horizons that I just mentioned. Our progression towards being a strong nation militarily needs to be achieved by enhancing our defense capability through self-reliance. A fine example of this need can be seen in the Indo-Pacific region, which has emerged as the pivotal theater in the contemporary geostrategic canvas. India's strategic location here propels it to be a key player in this region's discourse. So what does that imply? And here I would like to quote India's External Affairs Minister, Mr. Jaishankar, who said, and I quote, "To say that we have skin in the game is an understatement. I think we have vital stakes today in ensuring that the Indo-Pacific is stable, that it is secured, and there is cooperation, and that the focus is on the right things," unquote. Our stakeholdership in this region finds reflection in our policy initiatives and participation in various regional strategic frameworks, be it the BIMSTEC, IORA, Indian ASEAN engagements, Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative, or the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework, to name a few. In order to arrive at our military capability development requirements, it is crucial to identify and comprehend the current and likely future security threats that we may face. And let me touch upon this aspect very briefly. Our legacy challenges of unsettled borders will continue to engage us. These stand amplified due to the collusivity between our two adversaries. It is important to understand that infirmities in border management can lead to wider conflict that a rising India can ill afford. The hard truth, however, is that newer conflict spectrum threats have concurrently appeared on the horizon. Increasing weaponization of space poses significant challenges to the security of space assets. The cyber domain has its own myriad manifestations. And like I mentioned earlier, technological advancements in the electromagnetic spectrum lend avenues of impacting military operations, intelligence gathering, and civilian infrastructure which is dependent on electromagnetic waves. The information domain too is becoming increasingly complex with narrative shaping and cognitive dominance as an integrant part of conflict prosecution. Grey zone pursuits by our adversaries also mandate our attention and response. We already are witness to manifestations of remains pivotal to our strategic planning and preparedness. And that brings me to the question as to how are we shaping ourselves to be future ready. The Indian Army's vision that we set about is to transform into a modern, agile, adaptive, technology-enabled, and self-reliant future-ready force capable to deter and win wars in a multi-domain operational environment across the full spectrum of operations to protect our national interest in synergy with other services and other agencies. This vision clearly establishes a felt need for initiating progressive changes which accrue from four key drivers. And these are the unprecedented trends in the geopolitical landscape, the limitless potential of disruptive technology, the transforming character of modern wars, and the profound changes in the socio-economic domain. In order to address the imperatives and effect the changes desired, we had implemented the transformation roadmap a year ago. We have made good progress and need to ensure continued focus and impetus across all 5 pillars of our transformation effort that I just mentioned. And these are force structuring and optimization, modernization and technology infusion, improving our systems, processes and functions, human resource management, and jointness and integration. I shall touch upon 2 of these important pillars. As part of modernization and technology infusion, we are pursuing new and niche technologies for absorption into our warfighting systems. This is being given effect through a focused capability development roadmap which conforms to our commitment to the vision of Atmanirbharta. We intend to exploit and leverage the vibrant startup ecosystem and innovation potential available in the country. The Indian defense industry, on its part, is stepping up and investing significantly into research processes, modern production techniques for producing cutting-edge military hardware to be able to meet our defense requirements. And some aspects of this, I'm sure, were deliberated upon in the session just preceding this, where we also had a representative from the Indian Army perhaps explaining and telling you as to what is it that we are doing to leverage this potential and being important stakeholder in this entire ecosystem. In the human resource management domain, introduction of the Agnipath scheme has been a path-breaking manpower intake and management methodology. This will enhance our youthful profile and bring in more technology-enabled soldiers into our rank and file. The scheme will also ensure that the best of the best are retained as the core manpower at the cutting-edge level of our units. The Agniveers leaving after 4 years will stand empowered with suitable skills, imbibed values, financial means, and carry a unique resume which will enhance their employability in the civil society, qualify them for absorption into the industry, and enable them to contribute as good citizens. We are fully committed and confident of its success and are working hard towards this. The importance of cross-functional synergy and outreach to other government ministries, departments, and other agencies needs little emphasis, for its implications transcend across multiple domains. The Indian Army forms one component of the larger defense and security ecosystem, and we are alive to the imperatives of achieving convergence among all stakeholders to improve collective outcomes. I wish to flag some issues at the functional level where the Army is leveraging linkages with government ministries and departments to achieve this congruence. And these domains entail coordination of movement of personnel and stores, both during normal times and during war, education enhancement, skill certification, technology incubation, communication and software development, amongst others. We are also working closely with ministries to harness government's Digital India initiative. Our collaboration with MITI encompasses exchange of best practices on hardware and data security, assistance during procurement of identifying embedded malware, capability building in cyber forensics, audit of our data centers, and standardization, testing, and quality certification. We are also reaching out to academic centers of excellence like IITs for incubation and fostering of innovations, customized training and accreditation, and established patents of defense research products. The last aspect I wish to highlight is that of nation building. In the domain of nation building, a large number of stakeholders are at play towards enabling, supporting, and fructifying an inclusive growth. So where does Indian Army figure in this calculus? Infrastructure development in any form contributes to growth and influences economic, social, and security domains. Roads, bridges, and communication networks are essential for fostering trade, ensuring connectivity, and enabling efficient move of goods and people. The surface transport and road infrastructure for meeting the operational and sustenance requirements of the Army in forward areas along our borders have, in a way, ensured outreach and connectivity to citizens who inhabit these far-flung areas of the country. With the launch of PM Gati Shakti and enunciation of the National Logistics Policy, the Army has aligned and synergized its infrastructure requirements with the national logistic requirements. A defense portal for Gati Shakti has been created, and around 300 infrastructure projects have been identified for dual purpose use, which include 4 strategic tunnels and strategic railway lines. Empowerment of local communities and people residing in border areas also remains an abiding effort for us. This is facilitated by our intrinsic character and catalyzing through pursuing initiatives to foster national integration, conducting skill enhancement programs, extending health, care and emergency medical support, promoting border area tourism, and providing assistance in execution of projects such as the Vibrant Villages program in the forward areas. These were some of the thoughts that I wish to share with you all today. The Indian Army is alive to the fact that it needs to keep pace with the changes, align itself to that national vision, and move ahead with a progressive mindset to address all mandates required towards contributing to the comprehensive national part of a rising India. The Mauryan Arya statement, philosopher and scholar Chanakya wrote a number of years back, and I quote, "अगर शास्त्र को भूलोगे तो अपनी संस्कृति खो दोगे, और यदि शस्त्र का त्याग करोगे तो राष्ट्र ही खो दोगे." Unquote. In essence, giving up on the wisdom of scriptures, the connect to one's civilizational foundations shall be lost, and in giving up arms, the security of the state shall be jeopardized. The import of these words, written centuries ago, remains profoundly relevant even today. I am sanguine that the experience and expertise of eminent speakers taking part in this seminal event will present useful insights to catalyze transformative actions that contribute to the nation's growth trajectory. I wish to once again, in the end, thank IIM Nagpur for giving me this opportunity and share my views, and I wish the Zero Mile Sawad every success. Thank you and Jai Hind. Shall I go and sit there? Okay.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring words. Your words resonate deeply within us. Your vivid depiction of courage and sacrifice leaves us with a renowned purpose. I would now request our director, Dr. Bhimrai Maitri, to present General Manoj Pande with a memento.
Sir, a tree has been planted in your name in Simlipal National Park, Odisha. The certificate will be mailed to you shortly. Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.